Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today we're going to do a deep dive into Virtual YMCA, which is the members-only gated content solution coming to you from the OpenY team. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to answer a lot of common questions. First, just a really high-level overview of what is Virtual YMCA. Assuming most of you are here because you've heard a little bit about it and you're interested in learning additional details, so we won't spend a lot of time there. We'll focus more on questions like, how do I get it for my association? What comes included with it out of the box standard? What's it going to cost my association, since we know budgets are very top of mind right now in the current economic climate? How do I use Drupal, which is the content management system that Virtual YMCA is built upon. So that is where you would be going into and entering your content or making edits and changes to different aspects of your site. Can I make changes to the default Virtual YMCA to suit my association's needs? And then if we don't, cover what you came here wondering in any of those topics, there will be an open questions and answers session at the end where David and I will just open up the floor for any specifics that someone may have. So to get started, we'll just go with the very high-level overview. What is it that we're talking about today? And so I think a better question is, what is it not? Because Virtual YMCA can be a place to exercise on demand, a place to meet with friends, safely enjoy live classes, a place for families, a place for wellness education, a place to read the latest Y news and updates if you choose to make your Virtual YMCA kind of a member resource center. Really, the sky is the limit because you get to control all of the content within your Virtual YMCA and tailor it to your members' interests and needs. So what it really boils down to, it's a place for your members to receive exclusive Y content and resources that they love and miss from you, as well as additional updates that maybe are relevant in the kind of ever-changing business practices that we're forced to run right now. And so they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I assume a live demo is maybe worth even more than that. So we're just going to take a quick peek. For those of you who are on the call with us on Tuesday, we looked at the Carnation template of Virtual YMCA. Today we're going to look at Rose. That's the first theme that OpenY was built on. So, just kind of giving a call back to the original OpenY, but it is available in 3 different themes. For those of you who are going to be using the OpenY module that plugs directly into your OpenY site, obviously it's going to inherit the styling and attributes and whatever theme you're currently on. But for those of you looking at the standalone site solution, you get to choose of the 3 options. Which one do you like best and want to move forward with for your association? And so again, as I said on Tuesday, but again today, the homepage of Virtual YMCA, this is only going to exist for the standalone sites. Since the module you're plugging into your main site, you're not going to need, a homepage because you already have your main site homepage. But it's pretty simple. You can, spruce it up. David will get into that if desired, but the default is just your main header. In the middle is where your members would sign in, and then just kind of some little marketing information at the bottom of what it is, why you want it. So we've got kind of just a dummy login button here today. For your instance, for security, it wouldn't be this button. It will be a field where your member will enter in their email address. But if we pop on in here, we're logged in and we see our dashboard. So this is where each of the 4 content types are going to display at a high level for the members. So you're going to see your on-demand videos, the live streams you may have coming up, virtual meetings that are coming up, or any virtual events, and then blog posts, which is really just a term for any written content, because there may not be blog topics that you feel you need to, just only show to members, but there could be. But this could also be a place where you just show member-only resources, whether it's, recipe or workout guides, or again, kind of just news and updates about your changing business practices that members may find relevant and helpful if you want to kind of turn this into a, virtual Y/resource COVID resource center. But if we click into any one of these, it'll take us directly into that page. But something to note first about the dashboard is it's designed so that it's not just like this ever scrolling wall of tiles, to only show 6 tiles per type. And so there's an ability to choose which of those 6 you want that we can discuss later in this presentation. But someone would have to deeper dive into a content type to see everything, just so it's not this overwhelming experience when you first log in. But we'll start with the blogs. It's pretty straightforward, where it just expands your image, your text, and then what's next in the blog series. And so if I'm done reading that, then I can just go home, and maybe I've decided it's time to finally do some fitness. This quarantine lifestyle really isn't doing me any favors. So you'll see here then the embedded video, as well as a description, the title, which you get to select, the difficulty level, who's leading that class, and what video category it's in are all listed there. And then any equipment someone might need. As well as then in this kind of up next catalog, this will populate with any other videos that are in that same fitness category. So if someone's really feeling yoga that day, they can just keep the fun going. But say maybe I wanted to do some yoga, and then I want to find like a stretching video to do my cool down. Then if I click view all, that'll take me back to the video categories page, and you get to determine all the categories and the images here so that it feels more like your facility and your different areas of focus, especially if you are an association that is just beyond strict fitness categories. Maybe there's a family category or a camps category or anything. The sky's the limit. Again, you're only limited by your own content here. We've built it in a very flexible fashion. But these tiles will just kind of continue to populate as you add categories. And then when you click within one, it would show you then all of the videos. So it's a great demo where we only have one here in this category today. But assuming you having real content, say you've got 10 bootcamp videos total, they'll all just one right after another populate here for everyone to kind of just browse. And then we go back to our home page. We did notice that the live streams and the virtual meetings kind of have a different look than our just strict video tabs. So they operate a little differently, where if we click view all here, it's more of a calendar feature than just a wall of videos, because especially if you have recurring videos, that could be very overwhelming if it shows 3 months worth of tiles all at once. So because live streams and events are kind of more like immediate gratification, where I'm like, what's happening in the next few days, we've built this scrolling feature for you to see what's coming up next. So today there's no live stream scheduled. It lets me know that, well, all right, let's see what's going on tomorrow. Oh, I've got 2 options. So if I am interested in this one, I'm more of a beginner, this advanced one maybe sounds a little too tough. I can come in here, and again, it's going to look very similar to that video experience, except it's going to be just a thumbnail preview for your live stream that hasn't happened yet. And then there's a couple of new features here where it'll show me the date and the time that this is going to be happening at, as well as this add to calendar feature. I guess I know I'm pretty forgetful, where I might see this and think, oh, I definitely want to attend this tomorrow. And then it'll be like 9 p.m. tomorrow night, and I'll be getting ready for bed and realize I completely forgot to attend that class. So to avoid that, there's 5 different calendars that it comes compatible with out of the box. I just select, what do I want? And it's going to take me right into my, Google Calendar if I've got that set up with the title, the time, the description of the video is going to import, as well as a link, so that when this reminder pops up, I can just very easily navigate right into the virtual YMCA and attend that class. But that kind of concludes sort of the front end demo. We're going to dive a little deeper here into the specifics about the content types and some other features. I think I've lost my GoToMeeting pop-up, so I don't know if there's any chat questions that have come up in the meantime. So Amber, feel free to stop me, but otherwise, we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, there were a couple.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amber.
No.
Yeah, there was a couple of questions to some of the back-end functionality, which we'll cover later on in the presentation in case everyone's wondering, how do I add this? And then there was a specific question about how Zoom and passwords work through this. I can demonstrate that specifically in that section of the presentation as well.
Perfect. So yeah, a lot of stuff we're going to probably get to then. So yeah, so this was just covering what your members are going to see. David will cover what you as site owners and content managers are going to see as you build this out and manage it day to day. So yeah, I see a lot of questions that I think we have planned to answer later in this presentation. So
I'll pull them all to Paige and the responses that happen in chat and see if there's anything we don't address. Anybody, please raise your hand again in chat, but I'll try to do my best to fill the gap.
Okay, sounds good. Then with that, I'll turn it over to David real quick to let us know how do we get on here and kind of get it set up, and then we'll come back to the specifics of how you manage the day-to-day in a little bit. So David, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Pat. Oh, it looks like, do I have sharing ability here, or is that still being shared?
Yes, but I'm going to be running his slides, so I will just resume control again.
Yes, I won't need to control the presentation until I get to the back end demo. We've got more fun slides planned for everyone on the call today. We love our decks. The question, as the title slide says, is how do I get virtual YMCA? And I think that as we're examining this product, we think, great, I want to use this for my Y. Is to think of it in a little different category than your usual SaaS or software as a service model. And what that means is I go to third party, I subscribe to the third party, they take care of the product, the hosting, all of the technical aspects of it, and I just get the login and go from there. Paige, you want to move over to the next slide? The virtual YMCA is a hosted product, which means that the code, the software is free, open source, available for you to use however you so choose. But finding the hardware or the environment to store it on is completely up to the individual YMCA. And on this slide, we have a couple of notes on how you do that based on whether or not you are currently on OpenY and if you're not currently on OpenY. So OpenY associations, it's a couple of extra modules, and as long as you are on OpenY 2.0 or newer, all you'll need to do is ask your developer partner, hey, can we install, hey, can we install this? They say yes, they click the buttons, do the techie things, you have it, you configure it, you're ready to go. For a non-OpenY association, what this will mean for you is that you will download it and install it as a separate site or a microsite. So instead of integrating this into another Drupal instance, if you're using a non-OpenY Drupal website or WordPress or any other non-OpenY CMS, what you will essentially be doing is using this as a standalone site. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can potentially integrate it into your current domain name, which we'll talk about in a second. But the main thing that you will need to know is that you will need to have a server that is either a local instance or a cloud-based instance, which means do you have a physical server you're putting it in, or are you putting it up into the big mystical cloud that everyone talks about? And it needs to be installed with a LAMP stack. That's Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. For the non-techies in the room, all that is referring to is server has to have a certain operating software, has to have a certain database, has to have the base code for Virtual Y to run. And in short, Virtual Y provides the functionality and you are providing the content. So as you're creating all of these live streams or these blogs or whatever your association is creating, this is just a place for you to put that content and to offer it to your members, program participants, whichever audience you so choose to offer it to, behind a paywall or a login screen. So let's go to the next slide. So here's the stuff that you will need to think about if you don't have OpenY right now. You will need the Virtual Y software, which again, free for you to download and install on whatever hosting environment you have. Hosting, you will be hosting your own Virtual Y experience, whether that is on one of the OpenY recommended hosting solutions, and we'll break that out in a little bit, or whether that is something locally. All you need to make sure is that it has that technology stack that we just mentioned and that it's secure. You will need a domain name, and it could be a dedicated domain name, so myvirtualymca.org. It could be a subdomain, virtually.mymcaassociation.org, or a directory, mymcaassociation.org/whatever virtual Y or whatever you want to call it. How this will work out for your association will depend on whether or not you have the technical capacity to do it, such as an IT team, and if you need someone to walk through it. We're going to cover that in the next slide. Thing that I really want to stress, and the IT people in the room will really like this point, you need an SSL, a security certificate, because if you do not have that HTTPS, that little nice lock in the browser tab where someone enters in their web address, Chrome, Safari, all kinds of modern browsers will throw you one of these little doohickeys. Your connection is not private, and to the user, they might think that someone's trying to hack and they will move right off. And I was testing this out the other day with one of our non-HTTP instances that I've been training on, or not non-SSL instances that I've been training on, and it took me 4 or 5 clicks to finally actually get to my demo site because we didn't have an SSL set up for it. It's fine for a demo testing site. It's not fine for a public site. So buy that SSL. There are tons of reputable providers, and what kind of form that takes will depend on what you do with your domain name. So you may have a certificate already that covers it. We did that. We had that in the case of our OpenY instance, but if you're going out and getting a brand new domain name for it, you'll probably need to buy another one. So let's go on to the next slide. Now, how do I get help? All of this kind of sounds like technobabble, like I'm on an episode of Star Trek and they're talking about tachyons, because that's the main thing they talk about on Star Trek. This might as well be a tachyon. Well, we know about tachyons here at Virtual Y. OpenY community resources are positioned to help you out with this. So there are several developer partners who have experience with OpenY, and the technology stack is very, very similar. So if there is a developer with OpenY experience, they will be able to install Virtual Y for you because it is based on the same code base. Tutorials, that's my job. That's what I'm working on. Been recording them, coming out in the next week or so. And these will be specifically broken out into different topics that we will be giving you a high-level overview on later on in the presentation, such as how do I add a content? How do I configure my categories? Those things are already in production. And there's a lot of overlap with the OpenY platform, as I've said before. So things like, how do I build a page? What does the text editor do? How do I set up a user? All of those things are in the documentation already, just moving stuff around. So that is in production. And then, of course, there is the community. The thing that's helped me when I've done our OpenY site, and as I've been learning this new Virtual Y tool, has been to get onto the community resources. So that includes the message board at community.openymca.org, Slack, my go-to, openY.slack.com, monthly meetups, and the OpenY GitHub page. If you are very technically inclined and you want to know about forks and branches and gits and all of those things that I kind of know the proper names for but don't quite understand yet, it's all there on our GitHub page. And I think that's the last slide in this section. And with that, I will turn it back over to Paige.
You are correct. So we are on to our next topic then, which is what comes included right out of the box, no configurations needed. So some of this is going to be review, some of this is going to be just some extra info about each feature that is included, as well as just to kind of round out our slide deck. As I saw in the comment section, apparently that's a regional term, and David and I are going to cling to it. But what comes included with Virtual YMCA? So it's a growing list of tools and features because like anything OpenY does, it's never a one and done sort of product that is put out into the market. We're continually going to be adding new things as we hear back from our community about their changing needs to just continually make it a better fit and enhance, refine, and just build it into the best it could be. So for starters, you're obviously going to get those 4 default content types that we looked at the demo. You know, your videos, your live streams, your virtual meeting/event category. That's going to be kind of more for your social clubs or like kind of family groups or something like that, versus the live stream. We kind of are envisioning more for your sort of fitness audience, but again, it's always up to you. So if maybe you do a lot of live classes through Zoom or something, then the virtual events category will also be fitness content for your instance. And then as well as that written content type. But a few bonus features is going to be a single sign-on integration. So then you can connect directly with the CRM authentication used on the rest of your website. Again, that's going to be available to you only if you're using the module, meaning you already have an OpenY site and you're just plugging this in, because otherwise this standalone site isn't going to be connected to your main site that houses your CRM, member account info. So there's going to be no way for your virtual YMCA to know what the CRM is up to, since it's a completely independent website, as David described. You can also, as I mentioned in the demo, customize your menus and categories, whichever which way, to really just make it feel like home for your members. That featured content option, where you can tag up to 6 pieces in each category to show as featured on the dashboard when someone logs in. And then coming soon is a user activity log. So this would allow you to kind of just see what actions users are taking within your virtual YMCA, so you can learn just marketing data of what content types are most popular, so you can continue to produce more of that content and keep your members engaged. But then on a more financial incentive side, by being able to know what specific members are doing, especially for those contract memberships, if and when health insurance providers come out with some specified criteria on how to keep their insured client base healthy through physical activity in a digital space, as that comes to light, then your virtual YMCA can be a resource to then receive those contract membership reimbursements that you are used to acquiring when our facilities are all fully open and functional. And so then we're going to just do a deeper dive into a few of these topics. So first of all, videos, we kind of saw it. It's pretty straightforward what a video is, but just some specifics about it is you can host it on YouTube or Vimeo, and so then it's going to just embed directly into your OpenY site using a URL link. It's really simple, where you just copy and paste that link from either your Vimeo or your YouTube account, and then it will pull it straight into your virtual YMCA, where it's gated off from the general public, assuming you have your YouTube channel set to unlisted, so that people can't just find it among your public videos, since that would kind of defeat the purpose of gated content. And then Vimeo has some additional controls there. Since it's a paid solution, you get a little more there, which I think one quote I've seen is it's about $900 for the full year. But we're kind of looking into if they offer nonprofit discounts. That's unclear at this time. And so as I mentioned on the demo, then you're going to get your key info, such as your title, descriptions, level of difficulty, all that, and then that up next gallery. And so the next video in that instance will autoplay after one video ends. And that's just kind of a workaround, because as we all know, you watch a YouTube video and those ads kind of pop up at the end. If you have a new video that plays right away, then those disappear. So it just kind of refines the user experience by having that autoplay feature go. So the live streams, again, anything that's going to benefit from that kind of live in the moment experience. Again, that's compatible with YouTube and Vimeo. Facebook Live is supported, but if you have it set up to where you have maybe a private Facebook group for members only on Facebook, that is not going to work. The video has to be public it's a Facebook limit side limitation for it to pull in. And again, that sort of defeats the purpose of a gated content solution if someone can just go to your Facebook page and see it there. So you can set all the same categories here for as your videos in terms of your fitness or your family or whatever. And then it also has that add to calendar feature that I mentioned. Our virtual events is, it's going to have all the fun of the group events and the socialization with none of the health risks. So you can host it for whatever, groups it's appropriate for. So this is where you're going to find your Zoom, your GoToMeeting, and any of your video conferencing platforms. If you do use those for your fitness features, then, that's where you're going to have to kind of make some adjustments, which, is very easy to do. David will show to how you kind of describe things out of the box. But it is possible. It's just, I think, not quite as refined once you have finished that live recording, because then I believe you'd have to download it out of that platform, upload it elsewhere, and then have that if you wanted it to exist forever in your on-demand video library. And then something to note is that, say, these do not embed within virtual YMCA. So this is where you would be able to store in the description like the meeting room password or sensitive links that you only want your members or that group to see. But then when you click that join meeting button, it is going to take you out to Zoom or out to GoToMeeting, which will be hosting that actual group. And this again has that add to calendar feature. So again, just real high level with the blogs. If you can write it, you can display it. So it's going to be more than just a blog, whatever it is that you desire to tell your members about in the written form, it can happen here. You're just going to have your basic banner image, your written content, and then the default within the OpenY, Drupal instance is then using this text editor, which is going to have a lot of similar buttons as you'd find on like a Microsoft Word or something like that. You can build some tables if that's a way you need to display some information. Hyperlinks are a great way to share any PDF content that you might want to disseminate through here. And then some button links. So that would be similar to that button that we saw that we clicked to get into the virtual Y experience. And then just a note about that is the blogs by default appear on the dashboard in order of their publishing date. So they're going to show the most recently published first to last on there, as well as then when you're viewing all blogs. So, and then again, here's a lovely image of how that looks in rows. So finally, again, just another touch point on the SSO integration piece. So this is how you can grant members access to your virtual YMCA using the same username and password combination they already use to access their membership account for the rest of your website. So it kind of makes it simpler for them where they're not having to kind of go through these two different experiences. So it's currently compatible with Personify and Daxco Engage, since you need the Engage piece of their leveled system in order to access the actual like SSO capabilities. Salesforce is the CRM we're eyeing next for an SSO integration. But the good news is there is a CSV method available for all CRMs right out of the gate. And I think I've seen in some chats, some conversation about that, where that's where it's very simple. You would just have that CSV loaded into your virtual YMCA with the list of member emails. And so then when your member arrives, they would put their email address in, it would validate against your membership list and would say, hey, come on in, or hey, we don't have your information on file. So, maybe check with our customer service center team to make sure we've got the right email for you, or, try a different email. But that's how that piece works. So we'll finish this portion with, what doesn't come included. And that's kind of what David alluded to, all the content. We give you this excellent framework with which to build your Y, but just like any building, physical building, you can have the nicest, facilities and equipment, but without, the people and the programming that kind of fills it, it doesn't really make a house a home. So all these features come to you standard, but the content's up to you. So to make it feel a little more like home, you're going to need to add in, any videos that you have, any assets to the video category. You're going to have to set up those live stream and virtual event schedules. And we do have some tools that help you very quickly enter in any recurring events. Add any of your written content in there, establish what your categories are going to be, and upload photos for those categories. And then configure how your users are going to log in. Are you going to use that just email only method, or are you going to, if you're a Personify or Taxco engaged customer, are you going to go the single sign-on route? And you can switch between them. So for, if you're a Salesforce person and you're like, I would prefer a single sign-on, but I need this today, you can start with the CSV and then, kind of communicate to your members, things are changing once you are able to use the out-of-the-box Salesforce single sign-on capabilities later on. And then you'll also want to add a link from the home page of your standalone site to your membership page, potentially for non-members. If they, say, oh, this is interesting, and it doesn't let them in, a link saying, hey, would you like to be a member? Come on in here. And then as well as adding some customer service contact information. If someone's struggling to log in, obviously they're gonna need to know who to contact to help them resolve that. But what it kind of boils down to with all of this, I will reiterate what David did say. If budget allows, a digital partner is going to help in many to all of these areas. They'll help speed up your process. They'll kind of know some of the answers to some of these things that might feel uncertain, and can just be a really good resource to help you get this up and running as quickly as possible. So that brings us to our next topic, which is, what is this going to cost? Which is a very good question. And for those of you familiar with OpenY products, I'm sure none of you are expecting a dollar amount on this next page because it depends. So the code obtaining, this framework that I demonstrated from OpenY, that's 100% free. We never charge for distribution of any of our products or platforms. But using it, it's not going to be free because you're going to have some expenses to non-OpenY entities. So some things to consider that are going to impact your cost is going to be, do you want to, do you have a very robust IT team who can help get this up and running? Are you going to do it DIY? Or does it make sense to work with an agency partner? For those of you who have an OpenY site, obviously, the second route makes sense, and you're going to have some existing agreements in place with them that they can just add this to their billable hours. Are you going to do the module versus standalone site? Again, the module, because you already have your OpenY framework in your main site, that's going to cost a little less than spinning up a new standalone site, just given kind of the order of events that have to happen to build a brand new website. Hosting and domain fees. So because you're adding this new section of your site or a brand new standalone site, that's going to expand the amount of hosting storage you're going to need to deliver this experience. And if you are going to buy a new domain name, there's going to be a fee for that versus if you're going to just have it on your main website or use a subdomain to save that cost. And then if on this demo you're like, I like it, but I would change it this way in a way that goes beyond, editing text or editing color or something like that, there's going to be some costs there to have someone customize and build that for you. But I recognize that this isn't as helpful as some may hope. But as we're finding with some kind of early adopters, some ranges we can provide is, if you are going to be using the OpenY module out of the box, with no customizations, and the CSV method, you can expect it's going to be under 10 hours of development work. If you add that SSO piece, depending on how your Personify instance is set up, or Taxco engage and all that, which is a little more simplified, but still some extra hours there, you'll probably see yourself a little north of that 10-hour amount. But for those that have struck agreements with our preferred partners, usually we're paying, you pay between, $75 to $100 an hour on those rates. So you're looking at getting virtual YMCA for under $1,000 in a lot of cases with that module. The standalone site, there's a lot more steps that need to happen there. So you're going to be looking at a price tag closer to under the $3,000 range. We would estimate, again, excluding any customizations or all of that, just because there's a lot more steps involved there with getting the hosting provider set up, the domain secured, and then doing some testing and optimizations to make sure everything is working as you intended. So that is costs of getting this up and running. So hopefully pretty manageable. We, designed this in mind of trying to keep costs as minimal as possible to help integrate this into existing or getting new standalone solutions. That, I think, ends my portion. So now I will pass it to David, who is going to be looking for some presentation control so he can take us under the hood and we can learn how do you use Drupal.
Absolutely. And if Amber, if you could give me David Wells' screen share, the presenter
I think
power.
you should have it, sir.
It looks like it's putting up. So it looks like it's on my one screen. I'll turn.
Oh,
I've got a dual screen set up. Yeah.
Hold on. First time with GoToMeeting, folks.
All right.
As we're chatting, there have been a lot of questions that are taking place in chat. Thank you all for putting them there. I'm furiously copying and pasting. I'm going to be posting them. I don't know where, but I will alert everybody on Slack and on the CMO Basecamp. And David and I were chatting on Slack just a moment ago, our virtual office, and we'll probably do a second meetup just to cover all the questions and answers. So know that that's coming. All right, David.
All right. I'm having some technical issues on my laptop GoToMeeting, but while I'm waiting for the computer to do its thing, if you are on an OpenY site or on a Drupal non-OpenY site, this will look very familiar to you. If you are not, we are going to give a high-level overview of what you can expect. Whoa, getting a weird double speaker thing there. All right, can you try giving me screen sharing permissions again, Miss Amber?
Yes, David, let me see here.
All right.
I'm just going to go ahead and make you an organizer, and
Ooh.
you can just override any actions I take. How about that?
Oh, wow. That. I feel the power there. Let's see. All right, still not coming through yet.
Great responsibilities, David Wells.
Yes.
Well, let's see. So you're supposed to be on screen share, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting
again.
There we go. All right.
GoTo's been a little buggy. It dropped me off once, so who knows? Fingers crossed. Here we go.
Yes. All right. You should all see the virtual Y instance I've got spun up right here. And we're going to take you through the really quick login, log out experience and give you a tour of what's under the hood. So when it comes pre-installed, you'll see this little handy login button right up here. And when you click on it, you log in with our super secret credentials. Hopefully when you set yours up, you'll make your password and username a little bit more secure than our little demo instance right up here. But after you log in, what you'll see pop up is your website down here, which you can navigate like you would on a normal website, but you'll get this little handy dandy administration toolbar here. And there's lots of different buttons that you can click around. For those of you with the standalone site, what you'll see right here is this handy virtual Y tab over here. This is where you will probably be spending the majority of your time. If you need to add a blog post, there's a little handy dandy add blog post, add video. The event series is a little bit more involved here, where you can click on here to view the individual instances of each event. So if you're creating a live stream or a virtual event, you can see everything that's been created in here. And if you go back into that tab, you'll also see add a live stream and virtual meeting. This is what I want to spend a little bit of time on because it's got a fancy dancy name called taxonomy, but what that really refers to is categories, lists, groups, tags, terms, all of those things that you need to group and sort your content. And if you want to create categories beyond the boot camp and the yoga that we showed you, here is where you would do that. And it's a simple process. You click on categories. All of your categories for your different pieces of content will show up in here. If I wanted to add a term and I wanted to add, I think I already have Pilates in here. So let's just add kettlebells. Not sure you would want to have a category all dedicated to kettlebells, but I don't own your content. So you may have so many kettlebell classes. You add your term in here. And if you are creating a category that you want to appear as one of those cards where you can click on it and view videos, you upload your images into here. I know this is not technically a kettlebell, but these are the demo images. So let's go with it. We'll click on this image here and I would click select media. And if none of these demo pictures work, which in your case it probably won't because you have wonderful local content, can upload your images into this field right here directly from your computer. But then I click on the select media, and that's how you create a category. You click save, and now you have that kettlebell category available to you when you add content. So that begs the question, how do you add content? You go into the little virtual Y tab, and I go down to my video. I click on this add video tab right here. And it's a fairly simple interface. I add my video title here. And I select which level I want. We're going to say this is a beginner kettlebell class. I type in my description here. And you can make this text as simple or as fancy dancy as you want. All of these buttons give you the ability to style. You can bold it, italicize it, underline it, make it, as my son would say, super duper big. You could do that. I prefer to keep it simple, but we'll just leave this here for now since we're running a little short on time. And that category I just created, I start to type it in, now will appear down here for me to select. That's how you create categories. And if you are adding equipment as well, I think I already have kettlebells loaded in here, but you would go to that little taxonomy area over there and click on equipment, and that's how you add equipment to your list of equipment that you can tag a category with. Looks like it's running a little bit slow, but there it appears right there. Duration, this is going to be in the number of seconds. So if it's a half-hour class, we are going to, let's see if I can do my math, 1,800 seconds. If there's an instructor with it, we'll call cool person is teaching this class. And then here is where you would upload your video. So if I am going into here and I have my kettlebell video named right here, if I have a video folder, I can add that in here. And you can create your own folders in the media directory. We won't have time to get into that, but that once you add something to your folders, you can then tag your videos with that. And then right down here, it's a very complicated process. You go down to the video you're going to choose. I know this is not a kettlebell class, but we're demoing things today. And you copy and paste the video URL in there. No embed code, no fancy dancy, different API version of it. Copy and paste, which is my favorite way of creating content. It's simple and easy to do that. And if you want that video to appear right on your front page, you click on the featured check mark here. Now, when you save it, you won't immediately see the video that you've created. It'll have all the information there, but if you want to see that completed, you go to the videos part of your navigation. You can now see that kettlebells category that I created earlier in the tutorial. There's my video title that I've created and all of the information that I've entered, including kettlebells are awesome. And for those of you who are using the OpenY instance, I mean, the OpenY module, the process is going to be very similar and comfortable to what you've done before. Click on the magical blue Add Content button. Virtual Y video and Virtual Y blog post are in there. And if you're looking to create an event, that Events tab is also located underneath the Content tab. And you click on the Add Event button, Live Stream, and Virtual Meeting. Now, to answer this question before we get to the end, how do we do Zoom meetings? Because the classes option or the video option does not currently have that functionality. What you would do is create a virtual meeting and post your Zoom password login information into the body down here. I believe I have an example of that, and if I don't, I apologize. I think it might be under the event series. And here is how I would set up a Zoom version. This was built from a live example from one of our instructors who is doing Zoom classes right now. There's your Zoom URL, join Zoom meeting, Zoom URL, their meeting ID and password. So we just entered that Zoom information into the body or the description area. And if you're looking under the virtual meeting, it is a pretty similar experience to adding a video, and lots of the entering the content is going to have a similar experience where you're entering a title, a level, category, an image or a video, and entering in a description. And with that, that wraps up the very quick and high level tutorial video, and I will give up the screen share. Paige, if you want to bring back up the slides.
Let's do it. And yes, I guess we just like the sound of our own voice too much as we are short on time. So let's whip through this final section quick so we can get to the open floor questions before people need to jump off. So I think this is still you though, David, about, cautionary tales of making changes to your virtual YMCA.
Exactly. And if you are making changes, you may ask yourself, how did I get here? Because changes have consequences. Every single additional change you make is going to result in developer costs. Now, I like to put changes in the context of, well, how big is it? Because for some associations, such as ours, we like to make changes to bring things in line with our style guide or to reflect our communities better. And style changes tend to cost less than functional changes. And if you have a developer team and you got the budget for it, that is really great. But the thing that I would caution with changes is that aside from the immediate cost of the changes that you make, you will have to upgrade your site in order to make sure that you have the latest features and the best security compliance. And the more changes that you add over time, the higher ongoing upgrade and development costs you are going to incur. So when you are sticking as close to the end of the box as possible, the OpenY team is handling all of the upgrades to Virtual Y, and they're getting into the properties and the methods and the public functions and interfaces and all of that PHP gobbledygook stuff that is like Martian to me. And they're handling that, and you just pay the fee that you would to upgrade it. So just pull down the upgrade, have it, and everything's up to date. With changes, you have to account for the differences between your code and the code that the OpenY team is putting out in its upgrade. And as this slide reflects, it is creating a fork. And what is a fork? It is basically when two pieces of code have a similar origin, but one gets so far off from the original code that it essentially becomes its own unique code base. So if you get so far off and make so many changes, you have effectively created a fork, and as much as the OpenY team can put into upgrading the base code, you will essentially be paying for your own upgrades if you are doing those changes all yourself. So stay as in the box as possible, but if you have the budget, if the use case is correct, and you can keep it in line with the Virtual Y base code, that is certainly not off the table. Our association did that with our OpenY instance. You can certainly do that with your Virtual Y instance as well.
Great. Well then, that leaves us with 3 whole minutes for questions. So again,
3.
we apologize. We did not time this ahead of time, and man, does that show us we're like, yeah, we'll have it done in 45, and here we are 7 minutes later. So that's our bad. But we are ready for questions. If you can stay on, I am available. Can't speak for David, but otherwise, I know Amber will be compiling and sending out kind of a written summary of any Q&As that happen. So you could still catch up if your question doesn't get directly answered by us right now.
Yeah, so there have been a few questions that I'm not sure we answered. So I'll just pose them and folks continue to pop them into chat. But David, I think you somewhat addressed this one earlier. It's from Judy Christie. She said, will there be Y videos that can be shareable from associations that have a good supply? Syndication, do you want to chat about that? Quick?
Yeah. Syndication would, whenever I think about this question, I think back to my days at a physical, tangible, actual newspaper, and we would pull things, a lot of our stories from the Associated Press wire. We didn't have to create the content. We just had to make sure that it fit in the space allotted inside of the paper. And when I hear about syndication in this space, that's kind of what I think about. I think of, an Associated YMCA Press, and that's a desire that I think a lot of Ys have shared quite a bit. This is not a syndication platform. We don't have the technology built out yet to where a YMCA could publish a piece of content, make that available to other associations, and they just pull that down like they would from a wire. So if there is content from other associations that you would like to use on your site, talk to that association, get an agreement with them, and you can just post that on your site. But that does not happen automatically as of yet. And if that is something that you would like, we can bring that up on the Slack channel or in the community forums, and the conversations will continue about potentially adding that as a feature later on.
My guess, Nathan, Marin, or Craig, do you want to jump on? Because I know there have been conversations just around digital asset management at a national scale, but I'm not sure where those have netted out.
Yeah, I would say the content syndication that David's talking about, I see as a separate conversation from digital asset management. Digital asset management is taking raw files and then putting them together to create some kind of production asset that would go on a website or a brochure or something like that. So I can tell you we've shared some of these ideas with the YUSA and think this is important for at least a small set of associations to show some interest and start sharing. And as David pointed out, there can be sharing just in a manual process. I can tell you from the Twin Cities perspective, we've created about 150 videos that we would love to share. And I know some other larger Ys that have done a lot of different types of classes or programming that have been created in videos are. So if there's interest on twofold, one, if you have interest in sharing what you have, please reach out to the core team, me, Amber, whoever on Slack. Or if you're interested in receiving shared content from otherwise, let us know too, because this is all where we need your feedback to hear what would be really compelling for your association, your members. We're making assumptions that people want to share and receive shared content, but we need to hear that from you. So.
Thanks, Nathan. And I know that Craig is taking a lot of questions right now that are happening in chat. And
Amber, we lost your audio.
So I'll jump in while Amber's audio is lost. So speaking of syndication, a couple people in chat are talking about how their former have worked in the news media industry and they understand syndication. Absolutely. My first 7 years working in digital was working in news media for a nationwide network of content syndication and various platforms. So that's something that we definitely want to go after. It was something actually that Avi from YUSA and I were talking about yesterday. I know Avi's on the call right now.
Oh, well, I'll be sharing the recording. I'll share the Q&A post, and hopefully I'll even be sharing the date for our next meetup to cover a lot of the questions and answers specifically so that we can talk to those. So these meetups happened as a direct result of inquiries from folks in our community. So if you have suggestions, much like the syndication that Nathan was talking about, or any topic that you want to hear about, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And whatever we schedule, we post on Slack, we post on the CMO Basecamp, and we do send those out via email as well. So with that, I will close. And for those of you that are able to stay on, we can chat. And we'll keep recording too.
Okay. Thanks, Amber. Yeah, and I think Craig was in the middle of something. I don't know if you heard him, but your audio was a little delayed, so maybe it's just going right over the top. But Craig, do you want to finish your comments? Amber, I don't think that was intentional. I think it was just a
no, all good. So basically, regarding syndication, yes, that's something that we're looking at, and I would say it's coming relatively soon. The very near-term roadmap that for Virtual Y and it's rapidly evolving given how much this is needed by all associations. Coming up next is logging, which you heard a little bit about, to make sure that you can say, these members did these activities. Hopefully that can tie into potential reimbursement options for your associations. Shortly after that is going to be, we're looking at training scheduling and training one-on-one scheduling for live streams. We believe that's another big opportunity. And then potentially in parallel, in tandem, or shortly thereafter, would be looking at syndication options so that Y associations who are interested in allowing otherwise to view their content, as Nathan mentioned, Twin Cities or Houston or others, saying, okay, look, our content can be leveraged by other associations, being part of the Virtual Y or the Open Y network, able to simply click a button and be able to ingest other Y associations content into your site just through some linking that to an end user looks very simplistic. That all is possible and are all things that we are looking at right now.
Okay, and just for tracking, I know Amber and the core team, and we've talked about just trying to understand which Ys are interested in Virtual Y or those that are alive. So on the community page, just like we track those that are in consideration, those are building, and those that are alive, we're thinking about adding a section there that talks about Virtual Y as well. So for all of you that are considering, we'd like you to at least know which Ys are live using Virtual Ys, and then there might be an in consideration group there too. So we know that's helpful, and we hear from a lot of Ys like, who else are have this live or are thinking about it, because you might want to connect with a similar size Y or some of your contacts. So more to come on that, but we think that might be a good resource for you just to understand who's doing what and where they are.
I just want to give a big, huge shout out to Paige specifically, has been just taking this by the reins, has led multiple agencies working on the strategy and execution of this. So if you like Virtual Y, you definitely have Paige to thank for pulling this all together. If you hate Virtual Y, you can blame Nathan and I.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well,
that was what I was hoping you would say.
And I just want to kind of pile on that a little bit too, is just so everyone knows how Virtual Y started too. I mean, there's been ideas and concepts on this from a lot of us. We, when I say us, like associations across the board, but we were hearing from a number of Open Y partners that they were getting requests, and we brought those initiatives together into one project instead of having agencies working on separate initiatives. So that's one of the values of our community coming together in close communication between you and your partners and the core team. So thanks for keeping just open dialogue and transparency across the board around this, because there's a lot of opportunity for sharing and learning. And I also want to thank Mr. Wells for being our master of tutorials and all the tech aspects of this.
Yeah, and I think just kind of scanning the chats, I think there may be one piece that wasn't directly mentioned. I mean, the specific steps for someone who's maybe not on Open Y yet, how they get this. David did walk through it, but it was very, very technical, and that's just the nature of getting this set up. So if after watching that portion of this, you're still a little confused and you don't maybe have a robust IT department, this is where I think you're going to really need to evaluate your current list of partners, especially if maybe you're on a different CMS like a WordPress or something where your development partner maybe is not familiar with Drupal. We do have a list of Drupal agencies that have long lists of current Open Y clients that your peers could offer recommendations for, and who are willing to help just spin up a Virtual Y instance for you and just kind of leave your main site alone. And that can help this go a lot more smoothly and a lot more quickly if it's someone who A, either was helping us build this, or B, is just very familiar with the OpenY work stream and can kind of just get you up and running and on your way as soon as possible. So I'm sure we'll probably include some information about who those individuals are in the follow-up notes on this as well.
Yeah, and I'd want to put out a, I guess, talk with our more technical oriented folks, because there was a question in there about, all right, I don't have that. I don't have an OpenY site. Like, how do we direct people to it? I mentioned a couple of different ways that you could link people to there from a domain name, but that involves some form of technical work. There is the internet's all the time, and there are, especially if you go to like any higher ed site, there are lots of something dot ut dot whatever, like .edu. So there are lots of different. It's certainly possible to create like a subdomain on your current site, something.yourymca.org, but the technical details of that are something that I think our developer partners can help with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so long story short, you need to spin up a dedicated instance, small server where virtual.y will be hosted, and then link that virtual.y instance from within your current site in order to for your customers to be able to view that content.
Yeah, I mean, it's really no different than having two sites that many of us have today. You have a front end site for a lot of your content, and then for registration, you're using a CRM that's a separate, right? You have a front end marketing site that, you could link off to the virtual.y, or point people directly to virtual.y in your marketing and messaging, depending on your approach.
Mm-hmm. Then we just got a question about examples of standalone sites. So right now we only have the demo sites. The standalone site of virtual.y just became available 2 weeks ago. So no one has a live site yet. Partners are kind of working on spinning those up, but we do not have examples at this time. It's brand new. Oh, and then Craig answered it in text. Same answer though. Good that we're consistent. Well, with that then, we'll just move to our final slide. So that's the four of us who Amber was so kind to introduce at the beginning of the call with our contact information if you have more questions. But I think I saw a mention that on our OpenY Slack community, there's now a dedicated virtual.y channel. So I encourage you to join there. I'm sure a lot of questions and dialogue is going to start happening there. But if you need to find any of us on Slack, our handles are there. We'll have to kind of peer pressure Siva into joining so he can have a handle there as well. But otherwise, we have his email listed if you have any questions for him from a YUSA tech lead perspective. And there are some of Siva's team is already in our OpenY community who would be there to assist from the YUSA level.
Yep. Hey, I'm Avi. I'm happy to pass on messages.
Yes.